How's it going, everyone? This is Captain Timothy Hatchett of Bolden Area Command, and today I'm so honored to have with me Carol Bolden. I wanted to take an opportunity to introduce her and really talk about why Bolden Area Command is so special. Bolden Area Command is not only the model of Las Vegas, but it's a model of the whole country. Our officers go above and beyond on each and every call. They connect with community members. They go above every single step they can to ensure that we're having successes and meeting the understanding the underlying issues within our community. And most importantly, Larry Bolden was such a huge person and a huge asset to Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, and this area command represents him. Our little motto of Bolden is Bolden Pride, and that is courage, accountability, and respect for others within our community members. So I just want to take a moment to introduce you and take a little time to find out a little bit about your dad and explain to the public and our officers why he was so special and how he became named Bolden Area Command.
Thank you very much for having me.
So tell me a little bit about you growing up here. Tell me a little bit about your dad and just some of your experiences.
My father built our house here in the west side of Las Vegas, and everyone knew the pink stucco house on the corner. My father built the house while he was a police officer, and he would share stories of our next door neighbor, who's also a retired police officer, Herman Moody, helping him to pour concrete for the property. And at one point, my father would fall asleep working on the house. And one time the officers came by to check up on him, and he had fallen asleep with a shovel in his hand with the car lights on so that he could see. And I think that began my father's dedication to the West Las Vegas community. My mother would always say, you know, we could move, we could live in other parts of the city, but it was important for both my parents to stay grounded in West Las Vegas. I think two other things that I think speak to the character of my father. His phone number was always listed. And if you are of my age bracket, you know what that means, that people could go through the phone book, look up the name Larry Bolden and call. And they would, times at night when maybe they had a relative who had been arrested or was incarcerated, and they just wanted to get some advice and counsel. My father always took those phone calls. And two, he took pride in his house and in his yard. And if you ever drove by the house on a weekend, you could find him outside tending to the yard, even the gutters. And so I know that this is where Bolden Area Command needed to be, right here in West Las Vegas.
That is absolutely amazing. It's my understanding that tomorrow he's actually going to be recognized for the West Side Historic Park that's being built right across the street.
I think it's fitting that the park, he will be honored in the park, and the park is walking distance from Bolden Area Command. I think it speaks to his commitment to the West Las Vegas community, helping those who are less fortunate. You speak of pride, accountability, and respect of Bolden Area Command when you speak of Bolden Pride. And my father was very humble, but he also was very kind, and he was kind to those who were in need. I remember as a young girl, there was a man who was homeless, and he was walking in our neighborhood, and he appeared lost. And some kids were teasing him. They were taunting him. And my father went over to the young man and said, you know, are you lost? Are you looking for the homeless shelter that we have here in downtown Las Vegas, as you know? And he said yes, and my father said, wait right here. I remember he went inside, he got some clothes, he got some towels and sheets, and he said, hop in my truck, I'll take you down to the homeless shelter. My father believed and instilled in both myself and in my brother that be kind to those, because you never know what people are going through. And even through the trials and tribulations that my father experienced in his career, he always maintained that sense of humility and respect for others.
And that right there is what made Bolden so special, is our officers are being taught each and every day that it's the little things that count. and to emulate your dad and to really recognize some of the underlying issues within the households and not just the crime that's occurring. So what we've really focused in on is having them meet with these victims, meet with these suspects, and understand what are the underlying issues within these communities and these partners that we have, and just trying to address those needs outside of the criminal justice system. And then most specifically, Bolden really focuses in on partnerships with the community, with the not-for-profits, and with all different entities, whether positive or negative. We bring everyone in and we say, hey, let's come together. Let's find ways to fight some of the issues that are going on with the community. Let's address crime, and let's build each other up, and let's help each other. And I think that's what's so special about your dad, and that's what made Bolden Area Command so special, is it emulates some of the things that your father did.
I think that, even as an officer, or as when he was getting close to retiring, he always wanted to be a part of the community. And so he reached back and was always very helpful, especially in our religious community, in our church, which is right here around the corner. He was also a member of Divine Providence Day Home Nursery School Board, because he believed that the education of those people of color was very important. A nursery school that both I matriculated through and my brother as well, in the old KCEP building, I believe. And then also he was a board member of my high school. He believed that it was important for you to be active in your community. And if you were complaining, you weren't a part of the solution. And again, going back to my father being respectful, it didn't matter to him if maybe you had some experience with the law and it wasn't positive, or that you were a victim. He wanted to bring everyone to the table and say, I have respect for you. How can we make this better? Awesome. And so I'm very proud. I'm very honored that his legacy lives on through the Bolden Area Command, and now the Legacy Park.
Yes, it's so, and like I said, I can't say how much of an honor it is. It's an honor for me to actually even be here. And like I said, mentioned when you first came in, I wanted officers to know the history of who Larry Bolden was, and I also want our community to keep it. We can't know where we're at now unless we know the history of where we came from and where we're going into the future. So each and every day, we really focus in our officers and the mottos, and our mascot currently is the lion. And part of that is courage, right? Respect for others, we talked about, accountability, but the lion has a lot of courage. And I know that your dad went through some courageous things throughout the department, and I'd just like for you to bring up some of the things that he displayed a lot of courage on and why we represent the lion.
Gosh, I think you have to go back to my father having grown up here in Las Vegas in Searchlight, Nevada. Relatives moved here to work on Hoover Dam. My father attended basic high school. So there's a history. He is connected with the city of Las Vegas. And I think that that speaks to him at a time in the 50s and early 50s, making a name for himself. When he went to basic, when he went to college in California, when he went to the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia. So it takes courage. It took courage during that time. It took courage for him to fight for what he believed in when he was one of the youngest African-American officers ever to rise through the ranks of the Las Vegas Police Department, to go through what he did through the court system that reached all the way to the Nevada Supreme Court. And I was very young, so I wasn't intimately aware of what was going on. The community rallying around my parents and cooking dinners to raise money for his defense, and writing letters and the newspaper articles. But as I got older and we started to have conversations, I remember one time he was visiting my husband and I in Maryland, and I just said to him, can you go back to the beginning and tell me what happened? And he said, okay, and he started at the beginning and told me the whole story. And I said, well, what happened then when you went back in and were now supervising some of the same officers who had been a challenge for you during your court case? And he said, you know what, Chris, your mom is a school teacher, and we would take off during the summers to take you and your brother to Disneyland. So one of the first things I did when I went back into the office, I told those gentlemen, I will not treat you any differently, but the one thing I want is my annual leave. So you're gonna have to change yours. But that just, to me, it spoke volumes about the man that my father was. And again, it goes back to you treat people with respect. And I think that was one of the main lessons that my father taught me was it doesn't matter if you're cleaning the floors or you're the leader in the boardroom. You always treat people with respect. I think one of the most important lessons that my father has shared with me is that in his 30+ year career in law enforcement, he never had to use his gun. And I think that that speaks to his willingness to listen, willingness to diffuse a situation, and think of alternatives that could have addressed the situation. And I try and use that with my daughter, within my life myself. Think first, is there an alternative? And I think that is another one of the great lessons that I learned from my father.
I love it, absolutely love it. So during the last couple of years, policing has gone through some challenging times, and I think Bolden has had some successes because we focus in on those partnerships and just what you mentioned, not automatically going to a tool and having the time to build those relationships and connect with people and understanding the underlying needs within the community. With those current challenges within the current country, throughout the country right now, what would you say that we could say to some of our officers to keep them motivated? Because your dad went through a lot of challenges through very difficult times, and he was able to overcome all those challenges and rise through and overcome and be exceptionally successful. So I want to take a moment just to get your opinion on ways that we can keep our guys and our girls in our community focused in on how we can work together to overcome some of the current challenges that are going on throughout our city, state, and country at the time.
Gosh, I think the first thing is you have to have a passion for being in law enforcement. You cannot look at this as a job, because you can affect so many people. You can affect a child who has been separated from their parents. You can affect a woman or a man who's a victim of domestic violence. So number one, I think you have to look at this as a passion that you have, because I think that sets the foundation for you being able to overcome those obstacles. If you think in your mind, this is not just a 9 to 5 or a graveyard shift for me, that I am getting up to protect and serve the people. I think also you got to be willing to put in the work. When my father and his colleagues first started, it wasn't a 9 to 5. You were working overnight. You were working 7 days a week. You weren't able, you had to prove yourself. You had to work hard. And I think sometimes our younger generations, they want things quickly. They want things to happen, the advancement. So be willing to put in the work. Have a passion for what you are doing. Understand that you are affecting so many lives, and your simple words of, can I help you? Are you okay? Don't worry, I'll call someone to help you, can make a difference in someone's life, especially someone who has never heard those words before, especially for someone who has been told to mistrust the men or women in blue. I think sometimes you also have to meet people where they are. You can't be perceived or allow yourself to be perceived as better than, as an authoritative figure. That's why I think community policing is so important. The residents need to see the officers in the community. The residents need to see the officers living in the community, mowing their lawns, taking their kids around the neighborhood, playing with them, coaching their games. Integrate yourself as a part of the community. And I think those are the things that will make a difference. Now, I do believe there are situations where you do need to take charge. That is what you were taught in your training. But speak to people with respect, meet them where they are, and understand that a simple word or question can make so much more of a difference than using, like you said, one of your tools.
100%. It's the little things that make a difference.
Exactly.
And we can focus on those, and we can solve tons of issues. And what we always say is, you can't build trust without a relationship. You can't automatically have trust on first date. You have to establish that relationship, as you mentioned, through coaching, through partnerships in the community, to getting out there and talking to kids. And that's one thing that Bolden does a really good job on, but we want to make sure that happens from now on and into the future. So it's super important for our team to understand where we came from in the past and where we're going to the future. Can you tell me a little bit about how the West Side, what the historic West Side has changed since when you lived here and how we live today?
Gosh, driving in today, I'm reminded of West Las Vegas having one grocery store where everybody shopped. Washington, Highland, which is now Martin Luther King Jr. It was a community. Everybody knew each other on your block. Some of my same friends, their family members are still on their same streets living. I think that the community is trying to embrace their history in a good way, recognize their history, and keep it relevant while meeting the changing needs of the population and the makeup of the community. I think that we can all live together and work together, but we also need to come to the table and understand what are those needs of the different people in the community, and understand that, you know, when all is said and done, you want to have a safe place to live. You want to be able to raise your family. You want to be able to enjoy the rich history of your community wherever you are. I mean, everyone wants those things. I don't think those things are exclusive to West Las Vegas, but we do need to understand what is the history of our community and how to make it better. How to not just be a surviving community, but thriving.
Absolutely.
I want us to thrive. And even though I don't live in the West Las Vegas community anymore, it is home for me. And when I tell people, when people say, "Oh, you're from Las Vegas," I'm like, yes, I'm from West Las Vegas, born and raised.
And that's what makes it so special. I mentioned to you when we first came in, I started here as an officer and had the opportunity to come back as a sergeant, and now so honored to be here as a captain. But as I walk in, you know, obviously when you transfer over, sometimes you wonder how it's going to be when you first walk in. But what makes this so special is you walk in, it's home. And your team and the people and the community, they're all committed to the same things. And it's growing a thriving community, working together to solve challenging problems, and really just finding ways to move forward into the future. And it's those partnerships that really honestly your dad started, which made it so amazing for where we're currently at within Bolden Area Command and the Las Vegas community on the historic West Side.
I'm really excited. Just driving in today, seeing the retail and the banks and the park, just making this a community that people want to be a part of. So I'm proud.
That's awesome. Well, I am so honored to be with you today. Thank you for taking the time to come in and speak with me. I felt like it was essential for not only our officers, but also the community to understand who Larry Bolden is and what Bolden Area Command represents. And that's Bolden Pride. It's our mascot's a lion, it's courage, it's accountability, respect for others, and finding ways to work together to solve big issues. So I thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for the recognition, for the park ceremony for your father, and look forward to seeing you again in the future. And don't forget, your dad's name is on the front of our building. That's so awesome.
Thank you very much for having me and giving me an opportunity to speak about my father and his commitment to West Las Vegas and the city at large. Thank you again.
Thank you.